Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'll be teaching you how to create this rock using Blender and Substance Painter. Let's start. First I'll be scaling this base cube to something like this, maybe. Okay. Play with the shapes, we are making a blockout first. Okay, to cut this shape, we need to use the bisect tool. We need to go to edit mode, first apply scale, go to edit mode, go to mesh, bisect, and you can use this tool. Select this one, and having everything select, you can drag your mouse like this, and we are going to be making a cut along this rock. Go to this panel, and you can select clean inner or outer, then fill like this. I think it will be better for you to add first a shortcut, as I have here in the number 3 in my keyboard. So if I press 3, you can see it will be easily to use. Perfect. Okay, here I have my rock blockout. So now you need to select everything, go to edit mode, and make sure you cut here the base using the bisect tool again to make it look even like this. Okay, this is correct. We are going to be merging all of these rocks later, but we need to have a flat base right now. Okay, let's continue with the rock. I'm going to select everything and maybe select those base edges and vertex. Yeah, vertex will be fine. And I'm going to be moving those along the z-axis a little bit. I just want to avoid this. You see? Those edges, those vertex are very close to each other. I'm going to be moving them a little bit, just like this. Okay, now to sculpt those rocks, let's first apply scale and rotations. We have all of our models here perfectly blocked. Let's check the normals, face orientations. This is good. Now move this to a folder. Maybe you can call it blockout. Then duplicate this. I think I'll be moving this to my high poly. This is not going to be used as a low poly, since there's a lot of mess in the geometry, a lot of hangons, a lot of inner parts. So we are not going to be using this. Just save this for a render or something like that. Okay, this is the blockout. I'm going to hide this. And we have the high poly. I'm not going to make the low poly right now because we need to first work on these rocks. So again, make sure you always apply scales and rotations before you sculpt anything. Let's prepare those rocks for sculpture. We need to select one of them, then go to Sculpt mode and go here to the remesh panel, and you can increase the value, decrease the voxel size, or you can press Shift R and you can see the voxel value in real time here. For example, if I select 1, then you go to the remesh panel, we already have 1 here. So it will be better if you use Shift R instead of that one, because you can see exactly which one will be the size of the voxels. Maybe I'm going to select first 0.4. Let me check the vertex count. We have here almost a million of triangles. Okay, so if we have 19 objects, we should have maybe here in the entire sculpture near to about 20 million polygons with that value. Maybe that will be enough to sculpt. Let me check. Yeah, we can add some fine details even with that resolution. If your PC can handle that amount of triangles, you can go with this one or even lower values to a more quality. Blender nowadays is very optimized for sculptor, so you can go to really high values and sculpt very good in that way. I've sculpted models with more than 50 millions of polygons, so again, if your PC can handle that, go with that value. Okay, I'll be using 0.4 remesh value. You can add smooth. Once you remeshed the rock, do the same for every rock. Remember, you press Shift R to see the voxel size, and then click and press Ctrl R to apply. Or go to remesh and remesh. Okay, if you want to do this faster, instead of going to each rock, you can go to the modifiers panel, go to generate, remesh, and then here we're going to be selecting voxel. And here we need to decrease the voxel size to something similar, maybe 0.4 as we'll be using, and we select smooth shading. This will be the faster way. Maybe I'm going to be selecting 0.3. Okay, then select everything and press Ctrl L, copy modifiers. It will take a little bit to load, but that's all. We have, with all the rocks, we have 25 million polygon. Again, if you can handle this, go with this value. A good advantage of working with this method, even if you have high poly count, is that this is not one mesh, so you are not going to be sculpting one mesh with this amount of polygons. You are going to be sculpting one by one. So as you can see, I'll be sculpting here 2.5 million polygon rocks. So each rock will be more optimized to sculpt. Okay, perfect. We have all the rocks with the modifier apply. Select everything and press Alt C, convert to mesh. Go to object, convert to mesh. Now all of these rocks have real geometry ready to be sculpted, as you can see. Remember, always you apply scale before sculptures. You can start sculpting these rocks. You can use a graphic tablet. I'll leave you my brush pack in the description below if you want to use this. This is a paid brush pack, it is, but I also leave you the free alternative, which is the R brush pack. This is a very popular brush pack in the internet, so you can easily use in your projects. We select this brush. If you don't want to install this brush, you can go to the base one, which is this one, then go to stroke and decrease the spacing to 1%. Then you can sculpt. As you can see, you can play with the fall off. Or use the brush. Okay, so you need to sculpt all of these rocks individually. Remember, you can select in sculpt mode each object pressing Alt Q. Alright, let's sculpt the edges. Okay, now we can add some extra details using brushes or any alphas you have. Well, I'm very happy with the result. The sculpture looks good for me. You can add even more details if you want, but I recommend to avoid too much noise on the faces of the rock, because if you want to make it stylized, you need to have very flat faces like this one. You can add some details like rocks, some cracks, some levels as I add here, and that's all. I've been increasing remesh resolution to certain pieces to add rocks, like this for example, to avoid them looks too pixelated. So you can do that if your PC can handle that. As you can see, we increased the polygon to 40 million. So okay, now we need to merge all of these pieces into one. As you can see, they are unique pieces. We need to merge all of these pieces into one and remove all those inner faces. To do this, you need to select everything, make sure you save a backup for this, and then press Ctrl J or go to Object, Join. Okay, now we have all the pieces in one object, but it's still having interior faces. As you can see, we have a lot of interior faces here that we don't need. So to remove them, we need to rematch all of this object again. So go to sculpt mode. It will take some seconds to load since this is a very high density model. Now you need to remesh again this entire model. So I think we can use this value. You can test, but try to avoid too low resolution like this, for example, because you will lose a lot of quality in your model. As you can see here, we lost a lot of quality in the model. Let's do this again. We have the model, press Shift R, then increase this value or decrease it. I think we are going to be using maybe 0.25 like this. Click, then you can click here on Remesh or press Ctrl R. Well, this is done. As you can see, the quality looks very good. It is practically the same, but we removed all of those interior faces, as you can see. Now the entire model is a single piece without any interior detail. Perfect. Now we have this model with 12 million poly count, as you can see here, where you can enable statistics. So you can use this one as your high poly already, but if you have some crashes baking this entire model, you can optimize this a little bit. So I'm going to save a backup again. So you can add a modifier here called decimate. And I'm going to be using a value of 0.25. That will take you some time. Alright, it finished. But we decreased from 12 million to 3. So this can work, but if you can see in some parts, you maybe will notice some problems. For example, here you can see some weird shading problems. There, again here again. So I'm going to be changing this ratio to maybe 0.4. It did finish, so now we have less problems. But as you can see, we're still having some weird shading here. This is obviously because you are decreasing a lot the quality of your objects. So this will happen if you have a lot of detail on that. You can keep it like this if you want to remove those shading problems later in the normal map using Photoshop or any other software, or simply continue increasing this value until you don't see them. But of course, you are going to be increasing again the triangle count. So I'll be using maybe just 0.8 just to decrease a few millions of polygons. So let's do that. Okay, let me check. Now, as you can see, we removed a lot of those problems and we decreased the poly count in 3 million. So I think I'll be using this one. That looks very good for me. So you need to apply this modifier, decimate. It will take like 1, 2 or 3 minutes to load, so be patient. Okay, it finished. So if you have some small details like this, here they are not too noticeable, but if you have some of them, you can delete them with a deform modifier, deform and smooth. As you can see, sometimes you may have some of them bigger, and this modifier may remove them. You can play here with the factor value. Apply, and that's all. This high poly rock is finished. So I'm going to duplicate this rock, but first I'm going to call it rock underscore high. Okay, apply everything. So the center now is in the center of the world. Then remember to apply, go to object, apply, all transforms, having your rock selected. Now duplicate this model with Shift V, then move it pressing M, and move it to your low folder. And rename this to rock underscore low. Okay. Now we hide the high poly. This rock will have a material I'm going to call it rock underscore mat. Simply as that. We save, and this model should have an optimized amount of polygons to be used in a video game. So you can do this manually using retopology, placing faces along all of the rock if you want to have a good topology in this one. But generally, game rocks are just made of a lot of triangles, just like these, but more optimized. If you're not going to animate this model, if you're not going to be deforming this rock for any purpose of the game, so that method will work perfectly. So go to modifier, add modifier, generate and decimate. But here we are going to be using a very low value, like 0.01. Then press enter. It will take some time. When this finishes, apply. Well, now we decreased the poly count from 9 million to 99,000. So, of course, this is not the final low poly because this is still too dense. But now we need to play with the poly count using decimation again. It will depend of your project. If you want to have low poly rocks for a mobile video game, for example, you need to decrease this value a lot. But if you want to have some mid poly rocks in your game, the target is for PC or maybe console, you can give it a little bit more density. So of course this will depend. If your client says I need this rock with, I don't know, 10k poly count, well, you need to adjust all of these decimations to that. So I think I'll be using, I don't know, maybe, let me check. First I'm going to apply this modifier into 0.5 just to make it smoother. Okay. Then I'm going to use decimate again. It will be faster, as you can see. Okay, as you can see, you can start from even 500 polygons. This will be very low poly, and it will be very optimized for a mobile game or for a background rock. But of course, this is not enough to match the silhouette of our high poly. As you can see here, we have a lot of, not too much, but we have a lot of deformations in the silhouette. We can use this, of course, will depend of your project, as I said, but I'm not going to be using this poly count. Maybe 0.04. Let me check. A little bit more, maybe 8. Okay. The rocks are still visible, not that high quality. That's normal for a model like this. This value looks good. I think we can use this. Even the high poly now looks much better. As you can see, they match perfectly. But if we continue increasing quality here, maybe we can have some shading issues. As you can see, sometimes we are going to start seeing those triangles and lines. Of course, we can use this polygon, but I think it's too much for a rock. Consider we are going to be duplicating this rock in the map a lot of times, so you are going to be duplicating this triangle count a lot of times again. So maybe 0.9, 0.09. This can be a good value. Maybe just 8. Yeah, this one looks very good. The polygon is very decent. 3.5k triangle count. I think I like it. We're going to be removing the base. We don't need this since this is a one-sided rock. We can only rotate this later instead of doing this. We are not going to be doing this. If you want to create more entire shape rocks, you don't need to do this with the base. Perfect. You apply the decimate modifier. Okay, now you need to clean this rock Geometry, of course, not too much. This is fine already. As I said, we are not going to be animating this rock for deformations, so we are going to be using triangles like this. This is how video games rocks are usually made. Of course, again, you can do manually retopology for this to have in full quads, but this is not necessary. Okay, you need to clean these weird shading problems that you may have. Just slide the edges, pressing GG. You can see GG. And just remove some of those very close vertex causing shadows. If you don't see shadows here, maybe you don't have cavity activated here. So activate cavity. Of course, this will make your high poly looks better. As you can see here, this looks flat, and with cavity, it looks much better. But you need to activate cavity, type world. You can use both, but this is too much. Using world, and you can change the values here for the lights and for the shadows. Okay. If you want to remove some vertex like this, for example, we have a lot of vertex here, not necessary. You can slide this with GG, then press M, select everything, press M and merge by distance, and you remove those. Or just click and hit the side icon, auto merge, and when you slide, it will be merged automatically. Here I'm having a problem with the geometry. As you can see, we have some inverted and weird faces. So I'm fixing this just by moving the edges, vertices, and then filling the faces. That's all. Removing some edges too. I'm adding some new vertex here with K. You activate the knife tool. It is also here, knife tool. You can add some vertex there. Okay, it looks much better right now. Okay, very good. Now to remove the base of this rock, go to a frontal view, pressing 1 in your num keyboard. Then go to edit mode, select faces, then press C, or go here to toggle X-ray. Then you need to select all of the base. When you select all the base, you can delete this, pressing X and delete faces. This is good, but may cause you some weird problems here. As you can see, we have some floating edges. You can remove them manually, but I recommend to you to use this method. Go to front view, then use the same basic tool that we are using before here, and drag a line here, pressing Ctrl. So you can see, if you press Ctrl, you can move this line. Okay, good. Here we have all the base separated, but we have here some issues, so we need to make it a little bit like this. Perfect. We remove the base, but we need to, instead of using clear outer, we need to press clear inner and unselect the other. Now uncheck fill. Perfect. We have the base removed. Select the base and press S to scale and Z-axis, then press 0, just to make sure it's in the same position horizontally. Now to make it positioned in the center of the world, we cannot do this, because if you move this object, then you will have an offset with high poly. As you can see, they are not in the same position. So before you move the low poly version, you need to enable the high poly folder and select everything. Now you can move the models. Okay, I think now this is a little bit more like this. Now the high poly is positioned in the same position of the low poly version. Hide this one, and as you can see, we have the rock positioned correctly. You can change this value later after you finish the model. So that's okay, that's good. We have the low poly version with this poly count with our material. Now we need to do the UV unwrapping. Well, UV unwrapping may be kind difficult since we have triangle topology. We don't have perfect loops to cut, so we need to be patient with this. You can use, of course, a Smart UV project, but honestly, this won't give you a very good result. You can use it, of course, but maybe you will have some weird cuts in the middle or shading problems later. But I highly recommend you doing it manually. You have many methods. You can simply unwrap pressing U, and this will be baked, and this will be unwrapped like this. This can work, but we are going to be having, imagine it was unwrapped like this. We're going to have priority to those faces. Most of the details inside here are lost. Let me add a checker to show you. As you can see, we have high textile density here, but we lost a lot of density in here. You can fix this in UV editing by using relax, increasing the selecting vertex, using proportional editing and selecting those parts and fix this. As you can see, you can fix this in many ways, but it will take you some time and the results are not going to be that good again. You can also cut this rock in the middle. It will depend on your rock, okay? If you have some different shapes with some cavities, this method may not work, but you can see. Use the same basic tool, remesh, bisect, or with your shortcut, and drag a line in the middle of the rock. Uncheck all of these options and press 2 or mark seam, remember, edge, mark seam. Now you divide your rock in 2 pieces, and this will be projected like this, one face and one face. Let's unwrap to show you. We have 2 pieces here that you can move, for example, like this. Well, we have 2 pieces now. This works. As you can see, we have very good textile density and we are having only one cut in the middle. Now another method to do this is by making custom seams. You can add a seam in the base, then start making each single piece of this rock as a unique piece. as you can see here. Then remove this seam. Now we have 3 different sections here. Then when you unwrap, we are going to have this one side, another side, and the top. So you can do this again, this will work, and you can do the same with other flat faces. For example, this one, here will not be a problem, and that will work. I'm going to do that for this one. Okay, now we have 4 faces. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then unwrap. And we have this. This will work much better. Okay, so let me try some shading change. Normals, weighting normals. Yeah, this can work, but sometimes we have some problems here in this. Maybe we can add some geometry here. Yeah. Okay, that can work. I'll be using weighted normals. The modifier, remember, is here. Normals and weighted normals in Blender 4.2. If you don't have that one, it will be here. Just type weighted normals and it will be. If it doesn't work, if you see here a warning sign, you need to apply first with object, and here shade out smooth. It doesn't work in this version, but if you have an older one, it will work like this. Okay, I can fix some faces here, adding some extra polygon, not too much, just to make, yeah, the faces look more flat. You can see here we have a lot of shading problems. Most of these shading problems are going to be covered with the normal map, but you can fix this manually if you want. Now, to make sure you don't have endguns and only triangles in this model, you need to press everything and press Ctrl T to triangulate faces. We go to face and triangulate faces. Apply the modifier, then select everything and press U to unwrap. Go to UV editing. Then you can pack this using an add-on or just make this manually things. I think I'll be doing this manually. Will work much better. Maybe it can be like this. You can enable constraint to image bounds, so you don't leave the area. Okay. You can increase the size of this one. Okay, good. Those top parts have now higher density, but that is not a problem. We have the UV unwrapping, but I'm seeing here some little pieces in the corner. Go to select overlap, and you need to fix these faces because they are overlapping. You need to move them like this. Make sure you don't have too much stretching. Let me move them first. I think now we don't have overlapping in there. Not here, but there. Those two little edges are overlapping, maybe. Check how. Okay. If you don't see this color while UV unwrapping, you need to go here in this overlays panel and enable UV stretch. Then select angle. The more blue you see these UVs, you will have less stretching in your UV texture. You see those colors means you will have a lot of stretching. Let me check. Let me show you. Let me show you where. You see? All of this is stretching with the texture. So make sure to keep it as blue as possible. Okay? Let's check if we still having overlapping vertex. No, we don't. We don't have. Let me check. What are those faces? Those little faces, where they are. Enable these arrows. So when you select a piece here, for example, some faces, they are going to be select here in the 3D viewport, you see? Okay, let me check those small pieces where they are. Select them and press point in your keyboard. And they are here. They are some small floating triangles. You can delete them. They are inside the mesh, so you don't need them. Now let's check again. Select overlap, and we don't have overlapping edges. As you can see, you press point, you don't have any zoom. Perfect. We have the low poly and the material. This is ready to be exported and ready to be textured with the high poly version. Well, let's export those models. First one, select the high poly. I'm going to add a vertex paint just to have one color. It is not necessary, but I like to do this. I'm going to use just any random color, okay? You can see the color here in color attribute. Then export this model as FBX. Select objects only and mesh. Then apply transform. The rest is very fine. Then here type just rock_high. And export. Well, now export the low poly the same way. But this one will be low. Perfect. Now all the models are exported. We need to open now Substance Painter for this next step. Okay, now here in Substance Painter, go to File, New, Select, and select your rock. Always allow poly version. The rest is fine. And click OK. Now save this project. Okay, now go to Bake. This icon. Select here the high poly version. Then here in output size, select 4K. Match. It doesn't matter since we have only one mesh, so you can use the my mesh name or not. Here in ID, select vertex color. We just have one color, but it will work. Here in curvature, everything is fine, honestly. Just enable height and thickness. That's perfect. Now check the max frontal distance until you don't see red areas. Here we have another one. There we go. I think this can work. Ignore this base. Remember, we removed that one, so we have that extra part that won't be baked here into our low poly version. So okay, now bake select textures. Okay, we have the texture baked into our low poly rock. As you can see, all of the sculpture, all of the high poly details are baked into this low poly rock. You can see the triangle count is now the low poly with the high poly details baked in this rock. Okay, then maybe I'm going to be adding some anti-aliasing here. Maybe I'm going to be using 16x, but only for normal map, ambient occlusion, and curvature. The rest will be fine. Okay, perfect. You may not notice the difference since they are just small details to avoid hard edges, and that's very good. I like this rock baked. Okay, now you can start texturing this. Well, of course you can use my base material that is in the description below. You activate this and you can see already a good rock texture. Just a base, but You can modify this one. You can see you can use many colors and that. You can modify the base, the edges, and all of that. Okay, this material will be in the description below, but if you have an older version of Substance Painter, this will not work, okay? So I'm going to teach you how to create this material from scratch. It will take a little bit of time, but do not worry. I'm going to show you how to make this using this as a reference. So, first of all, we need to create a folder. I'm going to call it base material. Meanwhile, then here select color and add a base color. For example, this one. Meanwhile, just color. This will be our base. Okay. Now you need to create another folder here, and we are going to be using all of these folder for edges. Here inside, I'm going to add another color. Just color again. Select the same base and use a color maybe like this one. Right click, add black mask, then right click, add generator, and here select curvature. Okay, we have a very big curvature here that you can modify. Maybe something like that. Then decrease the opacity of this curvature. Something maybe like that. That can work. Okay. This will be our, I don't know, high curve. You can name this as you want, or maybe high edges. Then duplicate this one, and we are going to be making this increase the opacity a little bit sharper. Not too much, but maybe like that. Then increase those values, play with it as you want. Okay, cool. Then decrease the opacity again. All right. Then duplicate this one. This will be mid edges. Duplicate this one, and this will be sharp edges. Maybe just like that. Increase the opacity, and this will be the edges but sharper. We need to decrease those big values and keep only the fine and sharp values. Okay, let me change the color to something white just to see it. Meanwhile, increase the global balance, increase maybe soft. You can use soft. Yeah, you can play with this as you want. Not like this, it looks very bad, but something like this, just to pop out. Then you decrease the opacity to something maybe like that. Okay, we have the base. This is of course very raw face, but I'm teaching you how to create this one, this material. But as you can see, we have a lot of difference. We have the base and all of that. Sorry. Let me add here roughness. Like this. This is very dark. We need to add a baking light. But this will be called maybe edges. And I'm going to add another folder called bake environment. Here I add a texture and use color only for this. This will be the light. Right click, add black mask. Right click here, add generator, and here add light. We have light baked over our rock. Well, you need to increase these values just to make it the light comes from the sun. So I'm going to be using maybe this, which is, oops, check. Need to play with those values. Okay. Maybe like this. Yeah, this can work. Okay, now play with those three values here. You can increase or decrease the levels and the attenuation, like that. Perfect, we have lights. Now you can change the color, use the color you want. As you can see, looks very stylized. We can even add grass later over this, and it's looking very good. Okay, I'm going to use white, maybe just not too white, like this. Let me tweak a little bit those levels. Now it looks like snow. Now decrease the opacity here. You can play always with blending options. You have a lot of things to try here. Maybe this can work, but try and find your best result and select that one. I'm going to be using maybe this color, not too much, like that. Then this will be the light. We call it light. Duplicate this layer, move it down the light, and call it shadows. Okay, increase the opacity and just put a color like this just to see the results, maybe red. Okay, then here in light, invert this parameter. As you can see now, the shadows are coming from bottom. So now you play with these values. Okay. All right. Those are going to be the shadows. You can add shadows as much you want. Maybe let me try something like this. Now select a dark color, for example. Here, this. Okay, we have shadows. As you can see there, we have shadows. You can play with the opacity again and do that. Okay, we have the baked environment here. Now, we need to create another folder, another fill layer called background. This will be our fill background. This, you can use any color you want, but this will be the fill background. This background should be in a folder called color, or as you want. Then this folder will be soft light. Okay. Okay, we have the background here in the color folder, and you can use this background as the color you want. As you can see, you can change the color of this rock as you want and use this as a base. You can see. Well, now if you want to make different colors, so duplicate this one and right click, and then you paint here, for example, with another color, maybe, I don't know, just to show you. Select this and paint, add another folder, and right click, add black mask, add fill, and you can use textures, remove fonts. For example, you see? All of the new textures and colors and different detail things will be inside this color folder, all right? Perfect. You have this. Now, over this color, you need to add another fill layer. This will be called DV or division or light as you want. Then select only color and go here in blending mode and divide. This will be working as a white balance or exposure, as you can see here. You can make the model brighter, or even add color to this, some small filters. You see? You can play with those values and colors and make the rock colors you want. So keep it like this. Maybe I'm going to tweak this color a little bit, just to show you. Okay, perfect. You can increase here even values of the edges, maybe increase the opacity of some edges, increase the balance, those curvatures, increase the opacity. You can play with this a lot until you see your rock looks good. Perfect. Then over this DV, we need to add ambient occlusion just to make the shadow of the rock looks as shadows. So add a folder and call it AO. Inside, add a fill layer, select a darker color, remove some roughness, maybe like this, not reflective. Okay, then right click, I'm going to call it a generator, and here, first add a black mask, right click generator, and here ambient occlusion. And we need to invert this value here, global invert, true. Okay, now you can play with these sliders as you want. Try to avoid too much shadows like this. This is not necessary. Okay, then inside here you can play with the balance and that. Okay, you have shadows. You need to decrease the opacity of these, so play with the color, play with blending mode. But as a base, you can play with the opacity just like this. Maybe you can add some colors in the ambient occlusion. You can see to make some dust or even green areas like moss as you want. I'm going to be using maybe just black, just because if you want to use this as your base material for future projects, maybe you will keep it in black and select the color for a specific model only. Okay, perfect. We have the ambient occlusion and shadows. You can see now we have shadows, we have colors, we have environment, and we have edges. And of course the base. Remember, this material will be in the description below, so of course this material cannot be installed in your Substance Painter if you don't have my same version. But if you don't have that one, I already teach you how to make this material. Perfect, now you can texturize these as you want. If you're making grass, you can do this to make grass inside some certain parts instead of just this. As you can see, this looks good, but you have like grass all over the faces. You can use curvature for this. Add a white mask, then generator and curvature here, and you can invert this. As you can see, now you can add grass only in certain areas. You can come here to Photoshop and create a grass texture for this. Just select your object and take a screenshot and copy this one in Photoshop so you can have the base. and do some color selection for this. Maybe you can use this same green. Well, we have the texture. You can change the colors you want here. You can see easily. And most of the times it will looks good. Of course, don't do this. If you have some shadow problems like this one, this is too much shadow, you can simply add a level here in ambient occlusion and remove this. You can see. Okay, now to fix these problems, as you can see here, we have some lines into our seams. So this is caused by edges. As you can see, you disable edges. We don't have those lines anymore. So to fix them, open the edges folder and check which one is causing it. As you can see, it's this one, the high edges. So over curvature, add a paint layer, and you can paint with a low opacity level, like this. Clear and paint. Remember, with X, you invert the grayscale. Paint and clear. I think this is finished. I'm going to add some filters here. I think I can fix this slide because this is too much for this part specifically. So I'm going here to light and add a paint layer, and I'm going to delete some lights here. Yeah, perfect. Now we don't have those extreme light problems, as you can see here. Okay, this model is done. I'm going to export this to Blender. So go here to File, Export Textures. I'll be using the Blender shader we made in the last video, this one. You can make this easily following those colors. And let's export this. Okay, here in Blender, select your low poly rock, go to shading, select this shader and press Ctrl-Shift-T. Then go to your textures and select them. We have this. Remember, we are using Node-wrangler for this. I explained this in the last video. Go to Preferences, Addons, and type here this. If this doesn't work, you need to activate this addon first, depending the Blender version you are. Well, we have the rock. Select the base, press Shift S, and cursor to select it. Then press Ctrl-Shift-Alt-C and origin to 3D cursor. Then cursor toward origin, then selection to keep to cursor. This is our rock. Now to export this, select the rock. Make sure you don't have duplicated vertex. So press M by distance. We have 0. Make sure also face orientation is fine. Everything is blue. Red are for those interior parts or inverted parts. So make sure everything is blue. Then apply rotation and scale. Make sure the rock is in the world center, and make sure this rock have the size you want. For example, I don't know, I want this rock like this. Perfect. So now apply a scale again, because we changed the scale, as you can see here, and we have the rock finished. Go to File, Export, FBX. Go to your exporting folder, select Objects, Mesh, and apply Transform. And here is your final rock. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a lot with this. Now I hope you know how to make a stylized rock for video games. And please give a like, subscribe, give me feedback in the comments. Again, sorry for my English, I'm still learning, and see you the next time.